Hello everyone, this is Lorenzo from Meetecho. A new IETF meeting is on its way, and it will be a momentous occasion since it will be the first fully hybrid meeting in the history of the IETF. Considering that this time around there will be many local attendees and many remote participants as well at the same time, some changes had to be made to the remote participation tool to allow for a seamless interaction between them. If you're familiar with the platform already, pretty much everything works the same way, but in this short video, I'll still address some new features you should be aware of, whether you'll be on site or participating from home. Notice that this only covers this new update, so please refer to the existing video tutorials if you're new to the platform itself. So, without further ado, when you join a session as a remote participant, you can see that the user interface has remained pretty much the same, with the difference that now each participant has a distinctive icon next to their name. This icon, for instance, tells us that John is a remote participant participating from home. This other icon tells us that Tobia is using the Meetecho application but is in the venue instead. And finally, this other application tells us that Alessandro is also in the venue but is using the companion app that we'll talk about in a minute. Another new interesting functionality is that chairs are now able to pass the control of a preloaded presentation to another participant in the room. In this case, for instance, Tobia is chairing the session and is controlling a presentation, but can pass the control to me instead. And I'm notified about that via a pop-up that appears in the application window. As soon as that happens, I immediately have control of the presentation, which means that I can then use the controls that you may already be used to in order to trigger the presentation and move it forward. When no presentation is active, chairs can now also actively ask another participant in the room to present a presentation rather than ask them to request the permission themselves. In this case, for instance, Tobia will now ask me to present a specific presentation. I can accept, and as soon as I do, everything else works exactly as the way that you may already be familiar with. So I can choose a specific slide deck, I can share it, and then the controls will appear so that everybody will see my presentation in the room. As a local attendee, so one that is actually present in the venue, you are of course free to use the Meetecho application if you will, but the more interesting functionality is the one made available by this icon in the agenda here, that is, opening a more lightweight smartphone web application to interact with the remote participation tools. And of course, there is also an alternative to the agenda link. In each of the rooms of the venue, there will be a QR code that you can scan, which will bring you exactly to the same location. This companion web application requires you to log in via the data tracker exactly as you do when you join via the Meetecho application. And as soon as you do that, you are brought to a more limited set of functionality instead. One of the things that you can do, for instance, is use this button over here to get in the virtual queue. And this is important because both remote and local attendees need to be handled by the chair in the same unified queue, if you will. You can then get out of the queue by pressing the button again. Another interesting thing that you can do from this web application is also controlling a preloaded presentation on your own, so without asking a chair to do it for you. Which means that you can choose a presentation from the available slide decks exactly as you would do from the regular Meetecho application, and then as soon as you're okay with one and press share, a couple of buttons appear on your smartphone so that you can start controlling the slide decks right from wherever you are presenting. As soon as you're done with your presentation, all you need to do is just pressing that slide button again, and that will relinquish your control over the presentation. Finally, the web companion application also allows you to interact with the show of hands functionality that is available in Meetecho, which means that as soon as a chair starts a show of hands session, we can participate from this companion web application as well. Which means that from that same button over there, we also have access to the previous results from previous show of hands sessions if needed. To conclude, notice that we don't log you out if you just close this web application or if your smartphone just loses connectivity. To do so, you must press that button that will explicitly check you out of the session. This is done on purpose so that you can just reopen the web application anytime during the course of a session to just do whatever you need to do. If you're chairing a session in person, just use the Meetecho application as you would normally do as a remote chair instead, which means that you can just share the screen and the slides from there rather than plugging into the projector as you did in the past. Of course, make sure that you don't capture your own microphone and webcam because there will be local devices capturing the session for you. You can find more information in the updated documentation on the IETF website. As we explained at the beginning, though, there are some new things chairs can do now, and this includes the ability to pass the control of a presentation that the chairs are actually presenting to another participant. In this case, for instance, we are passing the control to John Doe, which means that as soon as that happens, the chair doesn't have the controls to control the slides anymore, but John Doe does, which means that John Doe is actually now in control of the presentation. At the same time, when no presentation is currently going on, the chair can also proactively invite a specific participant to present a slide deck. In this particular example, we are once more inviting John Doe to make a new presentation, which means that he will now be able to choose a slide deck to share and start a new presentation. And that's all. I hope this was a clear enough overview of what to expect from the next meeting. We are definitely excited to enter this new era in the IETF remote participation history. As anticipated, for more information on the already existing features available in the remote participation tool, please refer to the previously available video tutorials which are available on the meeting website. Enjoy your meeting.